What is up, everyone, and welcome to episode 86 of Pull Up with Myles and Owen. I hope you're listening on like 1.3 speed because I'm talking so slowly here. I mean, this is just ridiculous. We have a fun one for you today. We've only done this once before, and we got good feedback off of it, and we appreciate that feedback. So we're going to run it back with a bit of an audio diary episode. We did this earlier this year when Myles and I went to Philadelphia and Miami for Unrivaled and Nashville for Athletes Unlimited. And we got so much good audio that we figured why not cobble it together and just give you guys a lens into being on the road and covering women's basketball. And this past week, which will, when this drops, be next this past week, if that makes any sense to you, whatever that means, we covered the Commissioner's Cup, a game in which the New York Liberty defeated the Las Vegas Aces. It was, I don't want to say it was a classic, because that feels like me being classic hyperbolic Owen, but it was a really, really good, fun basketball game with an incredibly energetic crowd. We got some, dare I say, like verging on classic moments. And we thought it would be fun to talk about our experience just over the course of the day, what it is like to cover a game like this, what it is like to go to the arena in the morning for shoot around, what it's like to go to Liberty practice 2 days after they've won the Commissioner's Cup and talk with people. So we're just going to kind of volley back and forth here and also try to mix in some bigger picture historical stuff, because one thing that became very apparent in talking to players on Tuesday, the day of the Commissioner's Cup, which I believe was June 30th, was just the appreciation between Liberty players and Aces players and coaches for one another, and just all the greatness that abounds in this matchup. But before we get into that, Myles is going to take us through a little bit of the Commissioner's Cup history, because I've just, in conversations with friends over the course of the last couple of days, had a lot of intrigue, like, you know, what is the Commissioner's Cup? And a lot of people are like, how does it differ from the NBA Cup? And I'm always like, well, WNBA did it first. That's how it differs, is that the NBA bit the WNBA's flow per usual. But this started in 2021, Myles, and it's been a success. What do you have to say about this so-called in-season tournament that's actually not a tournament?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I think our new thing, because we are always so loath to bring up the NBA and men's basketball, but now we're just on a run where we're going to invoke the Knicks all the time, because they broke the cup curse, which was across both of these leagues, which no team had ever won the cup and also won the title at the same time. So that's what the Liberty are setting themselves up for, is trying to do that on the W side.
Don't think I didn't think as we were watching the game, because you're right. It's like, for 7 years of covering this league, it's been like pushing back against any time the NBA is invoked. It's like, those are separate combos. I don't want to hear how, WNBA player X compares to NBA player Y, but I would be lying to you if I was not sitting there watching the Commissioner's Cup and thinking, oh my goodness, are the Liberty going to beat the Aces in the finals as well? Because basketball is weirdly poetic and symmetrical sometimes. And yes, the Knicks did it to the Spurs in the Commissioner's, or whatever the NBA's Cup is called. Who cares? And then in the finals.
Yeah, I think what you were kind of also inferring or relating to at the very beginning is like, the NBA oftentimes will be just a copycat league that will see something work in the W or in another league around the world and then take that over. And I think this is such a cool example of something working in the W first, and then the NBA being like, we can't get our stars to lock in for 82 games. We can't get our fans engaged. And this midseason tournament is very European, and it's just kind of, it reminds me of all these like soccer leagues where there are just tons of tournaments within tournaments within tournaments, where it's just everything has some kind of stakes. And it is wild to me that this is the 6th Commissioner's Cup that we have seen and covered. It started in 2021 with Breanna Stewart's Seattle Storm defeating the Sun. And Stewie, not only are the Liberty now the first team in W history to win 2, Stewie's won 3 of these by herself because she was on the 2023 team when the Liberty beat the Aces at that point. So that's kind of wild. This is the first repeat winner. It went Storm, Aces, Liberty, Lynx, Fever, and now Liberty again. So in that context, it's pretty cool. And we are in this new era where the curse has hopefully been lifted. So for the Liberty's sake, anyway. But it's also a really nice way that the league gets engaged with charities, and every team will designate a different charity that they're playing for. And the Liberty this year, we're playing for the African American Policy Forum, and they raised $28,000. And that was because they went for a team where they've been scuffling a lot this season. They're 12-8 on the season. They went undefeated in pool play, while Vegas lost a couple of games, but were still able to edge out the Minnesota Lynx, who have been dominant in the Western Conference for so much of this season. And Vegas raised $24,000 for the Public Education Foundation. On top of that, the biggest part of this, and I don't miss me with the noise about this mattering less because the players are getting paid more. Every player on the winning team that was on the active roster, so unfortunately not the developmental players, which is problematic, I think, but every player on the winning team received $30,000. The losing team, everyone got $10K, and then Stewie, who was awarded MVP, got an additional $10K herself. That money, I mean, that's okay, cool. Like, every one of those players can go buy a car now. That I don't care that a bunch of players are now making high 6 figures or whatever, or a couple into 7 figures. I would never turn down $30,000. So I think like this is just such a cool thing in terms of just upping the visibility and also lining those pockets of these star players as the league continues to grow and just rise in popularity.
100%. That's undeniable. And even aside from that, the competitors that these players are, I think this episode will illustrate, at least I hope it will, the ways in which this shit matters. Like, as we paint the picture from the morning of June 30th at shoot around, through the game, through the post game, the Liberty celebrating, having the champagne goggles on, which rocks, which is awesome, which is what they should be doing, which we will get into their perspective on kind of keeping it in the moment and celebrating wins and not being like above celebrating something like the Commissioner's Cup, which exists in this weird middle ground of, oh, does it matter? Doesn't it matter? Not to mention Chelsea Gray's brilliant and now viral post-game press conference clip. Like, it is very clear. All you need to show anyone is a 5-second clip of Sabrina Ionescu after hitting the game clinching 3 in front of a nearly sold out Barclays Center, and the roar that she lets out and the absolute crowd popping because of it. That's it. That's all. That does more than I could do speaking for an hour as to how this matters. So like it goes, the money is great, and the money is definitely a meaningful aspect of it, no doubt. But it goes beyond that. It's like these players get up for this game. And what was cool about this one is that it was a really compelling game, and it featured 2 teams who have a lot of history together. And I think that's kind of what we want to transition into here. So like, day in the life of a WNBA reporter, we head to the arena for shoot around, usually in the like 10:30-ish range. And I love shoot around. I think it's the most fun media availability we get for a number of reasons. Number one, anyone who has followed me on Twitter or read my work or listened to this podcast, number one, thank you. I don't know why you're still following me, but I appreciate it. But you know that I love the half court tradition in the WNBA. And anytime we get to see teams do the half court shots, I just get overjoyed. I absolutely love it. I think it's such a cool part specific to WNBA history. It's something that really makes the WNBA and women's basketball unique among so many things. But it's also a great chance for us as media to, number one, get to talk to players and coaches when they're still a little bit more relaxed, but also to get a feel of like what the vibe is on the morning of a big game. So we go in and we're talking to Stewie at 10:30 in the morning, and they don't play until 7, but there's a palpable feeling of excitement and tension and energy, and everyone's still loose, everyone's still chill. So it's great for us as media to be able to just get to go back and forth with people and get some really good content out of it. But you're also like soaking up the vibes of like, okay, they're already dialed in. They're already running through a little bit of a walkthrough of the scout of the opposing team, and they're getting into that mindset that is not going to be activated for another 8 hours until the ball tips. I think that's really cool. I'm curious if you have anything to add to that before we get into the specifics of what we got from shoot around, because Stewie and also Jackie Young had some cool stuff to say about the history that these teams share together and just the perspective on like how many legends are on the court, on the benches, in the house when the Liberty play the Aces.
Yeah, before we jump into Stewie and Jackie, who are more interesting than we are with what we're going to have to say, I think like we really have these moments every time these two teams match up where it's just like a pinch me experience, because like we are just always seeing a big handful of the best players in women's basketball history take the court whenever these two do. But the big thing I wanted to say, and it's in the context of another very noisy WNBA season where there's so much just back and forth dialogue about things that have nothing to do with basketball. And there are so many people that are outside the sport trying to force opinions on specific players. And we're seeing this with the Caitlin and Alyssa Thomas thing most recently that has broken contain, that there are these rivalries that are formed that are not, that come from a place of hate from fans that are, or people that I won't even call fans because they're not people that are actually supporting the sport, but by people that are pushing their own narratives because they want things to be a certain way. And I think that's when like it is incredibly refreshing to see the Liberty and the Aces, two teams that nobody would fault them if they didn't like one another, because they've tilted so many times these last four seasons or so, right? Like since 2023, these teams have been just pushing each other to be better. And it's not that way at all. Like there's such a mutual respect there, but it's also like they know each other so well. They know what those matchups are going to be. They know what they're going to get. And I think that that's what makes this such a fun watch. And we haven't brought it up yet, but the one big disappointment that we had going into this is that right before the game, A'ja Wilson turned her ankle, and the A'ja Stewie parallel primes have been so great to watch these last few years. And I was disappointed that we might not get a good game because of that. And I'm very glad that the Aces were able to storm back from 17 points down to give us a really exciting fourth quarter, because this could have been a blowout. And then we probably don't record this episode. So just wanted to shout out that. But yeah, let's give it over to Stewie and Jackie and let them talk about how this rivalry has been shaped.
One way to describe Aces Liberty rivalry, I would say respect. Tons of mutual respect across the floor, and a lot of legends.
Hey Jackie, Myles, good to see you again. This matchup feels like an organic rivalry in ways like the league doesn't have very many. How do you think that came to be? Because you guys know each other so well at this point.
Yeah, I think, just battling a lot throughout the years, and always being, great matchups. So I think probably people just kind of like put that together. But, we're looking forward tonight, and we know what's on the line.
I love talking to Breanna Stewart, and just feel so lucky to have been able to cover her in market for, how many years has it been now? Has it been 4 years?
Yeah, this is the fourth season.
Years. Yeah. Fourth season, just ridiculous. So we just get used to it. But she's just always so generous with her time and insight, dare I say. Shout out to our friend Jeff. But also just is always so herself in availabilities, kind of giggling about this, but also being really insightful about things and just exhibiting such range. And then, Myles with like 3 minutes on the clock before. The way these availabilities work when it's run by the league, which is for the finals, and for something like the Commissioner's Cup, is it's kind of cool. We just get to wander around to different players on the court. They make everyone available and do a great job of that. So we had about 3 minutes left, and I was talking to Chelsea Gray And Myles made sure to go and get that good audio from Jackie Young. So shout out to you. I just wanted to talk about Chelsea Gray real briefly, because as we talk about all of the legends of the game in this matchup, this rivalry, if you want to call it a rivalry, however you want to frame it, we start with A'ja and Stewie because they are the two greatest players, and two of the greatest players to ever play basketball. And then we talk about a lot of other players, but it's easy to lose in the mix of all the greatness a few names, and one of those names is Chelsea Gray. And maybe part of that now is because after she suffered that devastating injury in Game 3 of the 2023 finals at Barclays Center, she's never reached that peak consistently that she was at in the 2022 and 2023 playoffs. But number one, like, that's the most understandable thing ever. It was a really, really brutal injury, and she's reached such an incredible level coming back from that injury, more so than anyone could have ever imagined or expected. And it also is a testament to the truly absurd level of greatness that she was operating at before that injury. But Chelsea is also someone who is so fascinating to talk to. She has the way in which her game is reflected in the way she talks about and thinks about the game, I think is just so cool as a case study on a brilliant basketball player. And she's done broadcasting work. I think she's going to be doing work around the WNBA with Prime. She's been on Sacramento Kings broadcast. So she professionally talks about the game when she's not playing it. But we know her as the point guard. We know that, like, she's a bucket. She can score over anyone. But I asked her about her 3-point shooting, which she has said this season, she kind of went into the season and used the offseason as a time to specifically work on becoming more efficient from three. And I found that really interesting, and I wanted to dig into that with her because, number one, she's been an elite shooter basically her whole career, and her 3-point shooting numbers in the 2022-2023 playoffs are off the charts ridiculous. So what was it about this offseason that made her say, I need to get more efficient from three. I need to bump those numbers back up to where I know they can be? And the answer she gives, I think, is really cool because it focuses on her teammates. It focuses on opening up the floor. It's everything that the point guard is about and represents in her brilliant passing and the way in which she facilitates and makes everyone better. But it's just, I asked about shooting, and she's still thinking that way. And I'm going to let her say it way better than I am here. We're tossing it to the point guard.
Chelsea, you've always been such an elite shooter, but what makes you identify in an off-season, like, I want to really level up the three-point shooting to even another degree?
I think there's just, like, basketball's all about, like, inches and percentages kind of thing. Like, the percentages to make that shot, like, what are you willing to live with? You can't take away everything. So, for me, going from, I don't know, let's say, I don't remember what it was last year, but saying going from 32% to 38% now, that person's not helping as much. So Jackie gets an easier drive or A'ja gets an easier drive. I know that they're not going to really help off me, and you've seen that over the course of this year so far, that they're not really helping off me strong side. So it helps level up, like, our team, but also me to be efficient from that area.
Great stuff out of Chelsea there. Ah, man, this is just so fun that we get to, like, behind the curtain, like, run through a log line of, like, oh yeah, now let's toss it to Breanna Stewart. Now let's toss it to Chelsea Gray. And now Jackie Young. And now we're going to give you a little bit of Sabrina in a second, because Sab went off in this game. She's been struggling as she came back from injury, and she came back and I had asked her about this the other day too, about coming back from injury during a West Coast road trip where you're playing in a different city every other day. And she talked about the struggles there in terms of, like, the challenges there. I shouldn't say struggles there, because her big takeaway was my back held up, and that's a big test. So really good to hear that, like, even when the results aren't necessarily there yet, she's not having any setbacks. And she gave a really good answer about just, like, being able to lean on Breanna Stewart and on her other teammates, because She knows that they're not rushing her back. She's not letting the team down as she kind of plays back into it because there's so much talent here. But Sab, from opening tip, went off in this game. She started the game on an 8-2 run by herself and just seeing a couple of threes fall. Finishes with 26, 5 and 5, including like a dagger 3 at the end. And there might be nobody in the W that enjoys hitting a big shot at home as much as Sabrina does. There are some people that love quieting crowds, and there are some people that just like can feed off of some of that energy. But Sabrina, the guttural primal roars that we get from her when she's hitting those big shots in the big moment, the like swagger that she's got when she's backing up the court after one of those, there's nothing like it. And at some point we're going to talk to her about, game 3, 2024 in Minnesota, where she quiets the crowd versus some of these pops that we hear at home about what would be her favorite moment to have. But it's hard to imagine anything kind of being bigger than a big 3 in front of the Barclays crowd, because the smile just erupts on her face and she just kind of owns those moments.
And before the smile erupts, like, I've watched this clip so many times because they bring me so much joy, and it gives you chill. It's like, apologies for sounding annoying or whatever, but you know what? I'm going to retract my apology immediately because this is just genuine. Like, the chills that you get from watching a shot like this and the ensuing Barclays crowd pop is so memorable and special. And here's how it exactly went down. She's on the left wing. It's a parking lot 3. It's well behind the line. It's a classic Sabrina shot. She hits it. She turns around, is running back down the court. I'm going to do this for video, but for audio, she does like a 1, 2, 3, kind of like a very loose, like, I just hit a 3, a celebration. And the game's still going, but then Vegas calls timeout and the whistle blows, and she turns around, and before any smile breaks out, she just roars like absolute on fire psycho competitor in the best way, and the crowd just goes ballistic. And it's so fun to be a part of those moments because it's what basketball is all about, and because like she stands alone on this team as the player that does that. They all are equally competitive, driven, and want to celebrate these big moments, but the ways in which their personalities differ in terms of how they react to a big shot is really fun to watch. And Sabrina's the one person who's gonna just scream and flex and get the crowd absolutely out of its mind. And it was part of why it was so fun in this game is we hadn't gotten that this year yet. Like that was the first one. And it was clearly an eruption and a buildup and a release for her after everything you talked about, with this being a really tough start to her season. The first couple years of her career, she went through this a lot with injuries. And then, knock on wood, she's really to her credit, to a testament to her work ethic and just the way she eats and breathes basketball. Like, she's really become way more durable throughout her WNBA career and been able to avoid those injuries. And this year, through no fault of her own, has been frustrating because she hasn't been able to find it yet. And she found it in this game. And what's fun is all the big shots came at the start and the end. In the middle of the game, she is facilitating. She's finding Stewie. She's, making these hit-ahead passes. And then for her to get rewarded with the big crowd moment was so fun to watch.
I love the context that you give about her taking that moment and being locked in and then getting the permission with the timeout to celebrate. And I'm trying to remember now, this was not on our sheet at all, just off the dome. Was it 2022 or 2021? One of these seasons where she hits a game winner against Indy, where it's a tie game.
Yeah, I remember that game.
She hits it with like a second left, and then and I think everyone is ready to storm the court, and she turns to the bench. She's like, no, there's still time on the clock.
Yeah.
And then a timeout hits, and then she goes back and she kind of mean mugs. And she also kind of had that during that game 3 against Minnesota too, because it wasn't it wasn't zeros on the clock yet. And she's got this like locked in mode where she needs the permission to be able to exhale and celebrate. But that's the kind of fiery competitor that she is. And I think something that we are able to enjoy in this Vegas New York head to head is that she and Jackie are on each other nonstop in these matchups. And the full context that I love, and I know that you love, is that the two of them got really close during the 2024 Olympics and on that squad. And the mutual respect there is really, really great. Because it also just kind of deads some of the negative narratives that like will try to peek their way through. And obviously Asia and Stewie are so good at doing that. Every time either of them has an opportunity to talk about like who's the toughest player to guard, it's such an easy answer for them to be like each other. And I feel like Jackie and Sabrina both also have this respect for one another. And at shoot around, so we're backing up before the game, I asked Sab about Jackie, and we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in a moment, because first we need to talk about the game that Jackie had. And the reason why this became so tight down the stretch was because Jackie Young put the team on her back. And we will talk a little bit about the emotional letdown that she had for herself because of a late layup attempt. But before that, there's no way that Vegas is hanging around if Jackie Young doesn't come out there. And she finishes with 31 points and 7 assists. 21 of those points and 4 of those assists came after the break, and in a big run that was late third, but then in the fourth quarter where Vegas actually came back to take a lead at one point. I think it was 69-67 and then 71-69. Jackie was just getting all of the points in that run. Jackie Young, you're wasting your time if you're listening to me talk about Jackie. Oh, and what'd you think of this Jackie Young performance? Because 31 points is a high in the Commissioner's Cup in the 6-year history of this championship game.
Just delightful. A classic Jackie Young game. And the only way in which it wasn't a classic Jackie Young game is that, and even this is classic Jackie Young, is like she almost had to be forced into being more aggressive and looking for her own shot. She's so used to playing with A'ja Wilson. She is the best person in the world at finding A'ja Wilson in her spots and at protecting the ball and running this brilliant, prolific offense. And watching her find the mode where she realized, I need to be the player because otherwise we're going to get smoked. We don't have A'ja, and that's not to say we don't have other capable players, but I have to be the number one option. And I mean, it was just so fun to watch. Like, yeah, it's it's a risky thing to do, to just like give me a platform without a guest where I'm just like talking about Jackie Young, because we could be here for 2 hours, obviously. It's like I'm going to, all of a sudden you're going to blink and I'm going to be like discussing a regular season Notre Dame game from like 2017, 2018. But I thought this was cool because of the variety of what she was doing. We saw everything that makes Jackie a Hall of Fame level player in this game. We saw the manipulation of pace, where she knows when to push it. She knows when to get the offense out in transition. She knows when she can actually blow by and get to her spots and get a half step on the defender. The best bucket of the game, I think most people would agree, was the slowest one of the game in the third quarter, in the run you're talking about, when she decelerates to such an extreme degree that it feels like someone pressed pause on the game and then lays it in, because what else are you supposed to do? No one does that. And as you're going to see if you're watching the video here, I got a little bit of the video from pregame 90 minutes before. I highly recommend, if you ever go to an Aces game, get there as early as possible. Watch these players warm up. It's not just Jackie. There's so many cool pregame routines. I'm also going to throw in. Chelsea starts dribbling 2 balls at once faster than I could imagine dribbling one ball, even if you sped me up times 3. Like, it's utterly absurd, and it's really fun when Chelsea's doing this to watch all the content creators, all the writers, all the photographers, videographers, and the fans just kind of gather around Chelsea and watch her do this dazzling display of dribbling. So that was delightful. But if you watch Jackie warm up, number one, you'll appreciate the work that she put in on her shot, and the thing we've talked about so much in the arc of her brilliant career, when in the offseason after the 2021 loss in the semifinals to the Mercury, Jackie goes over to the WNBL, absolutely kills it, is rooming with Marina Mabrey, is doing boxing, as a method of conditioning, and then comes back to Vegas and works specifically with Tyler Marsh on moving her shot pocket out of the line of her vision and more towards the right side and getting a little more arc on the ball, and just turns herself into one of the most lethal shooters in the WNBA. She was already lethal from the mid-range, but she didn't have the three-point efficiency, and it totally turned her career. I don't want to say turned her career around, because Jackie's gotten better every damn year, and I'll stand on that, and I have her whole career. But there's a way in which it lent us the Becky quote from 2022 of her ceiling is there is no ceiling. Once she put in that work on her jump shot, there was no ceiling to what she could accomplish, and there still isn't. And one thing she specifically works on to bring this full circle to that deceleration bucket, after you watch her, shoot from all different areas on the floor. And by the way, she just is not missing in warmups. I've watched it a bazillion times, and it's just every shot is just perfectly through the net. It's so fun to watch. But then she'll work on deceleration. She will actively practice against one of the coaches or a practice player, working on getting to the rim and decelerating. It's something that I think is so cool, because she's always been a brilliant finisher. And one of the things that got her drafted number 1 overall coming out of Notre Dame was her strength and her balance. You've talked about this. You've talked with her about it. The work she puts in on her body allows her to be so balanced and under control and able to slow down or speed up depending on what the defender is giving her. And it makes her one of the best finishers we've ever seen. Or she'll stop at 10 feet and pop the shot that she's always been elite at. There's just no counters when she's doing everything really well and has such a elite understanding of the game. So that was really, really fun. And, to tie it back to the game itself, they were down 17 in the third quarter. The Aces are down 17 in the third quarter on the road without Asia Wilson, scrambling to find a 5-player lineup that's going to give them anything. It would have been fair for anyone to just kind of write it off as like a totally understandable loss, and Liberty are going to win and it's going to be a breeze. And the reason that we got a really, really entertaining basketball game was because Jackie Young went off and was unstoppable and was scoring in just various different ways. The and one through contact was great. The sidestep 3, she hit a step back 3 on the left wing in the fourth quarter. And, she's always guarding Sabrina. She's always guarding the other team's best perimeter player. It's just such a joy to watch. As someone who I've said many times, Jackie's kind of the number one catalyst for me getting so hugely into women's basketball. When I was in college at Northeastern covering our women's basketball team and starting to get deep into it, the Jackie Notre Dame team was the team that I first just started watching every single game of. And so to have it come full circle where, I'm covering these games and watching her go off like this, it's a real like pinch myself moment.
Absolutely. And I do want to just say that we've seen a lot of times this season that this Liberty team has struggled to put together a full 40 minutes. I don't think that was the case this time. No. This was an instance of one of the best players in the world doing everything to put her team on her back and bring them back into this one. And yeah, the shot selection fell off a bit, but this wasn't the Liberty thinking they had this all sewn up with, 8 minutes to go in the third quarter or whatever. And I think that that's an important distinction when we talk about this game. I think what the big difference was so many times this year, New York is not the first team to hit the floor. They're not boxing out to make and making sure that that their guards are crashing. They're not doing all the little things that you need to do to put you 1% better than the team against them. And New York did all of that. They absorbed that punch because they got themselves that early lead. And then when they went down in the fourth quarter, they responded with I think it was a 13-0 run of their own or something like that, to then kind of put the game out of reach. But Vegas kept making shots in that fourth quarter and New York kept counterpunching. So this was a really well played basketball game. And it wasn't one team versus, taking their foot off the gas and another team exploiting that.
I totally agree. And we're going to throw it to the Sabrina audio from Shoot Around because I do just want to. Also, didn't I do well? Like, I might have talked for 5 minutes, but I could have waxed poetic for 15. Real pat on the back there. I mean, I did bring up Notre Dame, but that was inevitably going to happen. If you had that bet in, then cash it. But I think the Jackie Sabrina relationship and mutual admiration society is really cool too. And one thing I love about it is like, they're so different. Sabrina is going to let out that roar after she hits a three. The most you're going to get from Jackie is a smile, or she did once, and here I go once again, bring it back to 2018 against UConn. She did one time let out a little bit of a yell, but it's always kind of understated. So the ways in which they're going to celebrate their wins is different, but I think you'd have to let them say it, but as a fan of the game and of watching great basketball players, I think that they both appreciate the way in which one another work and just eat and breathe the game. They're both basketball sickos. They both like to do other things. They both have other interests for sure. It's not all basketball, but they are just both elite basketball minds who love the game and who love the work and who love the grind of it all. Mm-hmm. And it was something that was so notable to both of us watching the 2024 Olympics was like Jackie and Sabrina were sharing the floor and had this ineffable chemistry that's pretty rare from two players who have never played with one another outside of the national team context. And it's just even cooler because their real relationship is through the lens of being on these opposing dominant teams in the WNBA. So we'll throw it to Sab to talk about Jackie, who 8.5 hours after this answer was going to go off, and as did Sabrina. Here's Sabrina talking about Jackie Young.
Thanks. And there are tons of talks about just the rivalries, the organic rivalries these two teams have built. But there are also so many great individual matchups. And I know you've talked about getting close with Jackie at the Olympics, but you two see a lot of each other. What makes her such a difficult guard and a difficult player to have guarding you on the other end?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, we usually always guard each other. And so I feel like we know each other's games really well. But she's so dynamic. I mean, we've been playing against each other since high school, so we've known each other for a really long time. It's pretty sweet though, because we're also like really cool off the court as well, and so obviously she's just a great player in all aspects. She plays both sides of the ball. She's able to attack, use her strength inside, shoot really well, from behind the arc. So I'd say just the versatility and how she's continued to get better every single year is what makes her so special. And she's also just a really unselfish person. She understands the game really well, plays it at a really high level, and just tough anytime Jackie's on the floor, you're in for a long night.
Really great stuff. And of course it stays on the theme, but in listening to to Sabrina talk about Jackie, I also was remembering post game, how Sabrina was talking about her own journey this season and how there have been some unique challenges. And Alexa Philippou from ESPN asked Sabrina about that performance and about how she's been struggling this season and what it meant to have this moment on the big stage. And in Sab's own words, she's built for this. She's worked hard. She's earned every opportunity that has come to her. And let's just hear her talk about what this moment meant to her.
Sabrina, just coming back from this injury, just the way that this season has kind of started for you, how would you describe just what that's been like over, the past few weeks, just trying to find your way, stay steady? And when you heard the fans cheering your name after the game tonight, what was that moment like for you?
No, let's not do it again. Yeah, it was special. I've always kind of continued to have that belief in myself because I understand the work that I've put in, and an injury or two is not going to, diminish my understanding of who I am and the work that I've put in to get to where I'm at today. But obviously it's really special for the fans that continue to believe in me, whether I play well or not, as I've worked my way back into feeling like myself and being able to be here at home and just knowing that it's not about proving people wrong, but continuing to prove people right, and especially the ones that have stuck with me throughout the entirety of my career. And so, really blessed. But I've obviously continued to keep the faith and understanding the tables will turn at some point, and that was tonight.
From the winning side to the losing side, more of the behind the curtains stuff here is the realities of sports and of sports media. On one side, you have the Liberty on the court already, preparing the champagne celebration and celebrating Stewie winning Commissioner's Cup MVP, etc., the trophy presentation. And meanwhile, on the other side, disappointment, and something that really tugged at my heartstrings as someone who is such a fan of these players was how the Aces exited the court, and specifically Jackie Young and A'ja Wilson. A'ja Wilson in a boot, not having played, and Jackie having had such a phenomenal game and missing a layup at the end that would have put the Aces down 3 with about, I don't remember, maybe 30 seconds to go. Yeah. It was, I think even less than a minute. It was one of those things where they still would have had a hill to climb to win the game, but it would have allowed them to get a stop and call a timeout and get a 3. It would have kept them in the game. It was probably Jackie's easiest look of the game, and she smoked it. And that's not the reason why they lost, so far from it. The only reason they were in the game is entirely because of her. But if you know Jackie, you know she's going to wear that moment. She's not going to be thinking about how, I scored 31, had 7 assists, that was good enough. She was really, I don't want to say like upset, but she was just frustrated and down on herself after the game because she missed that layup. And as they're walking off the court, A'ja Wilson has her arm around Jackie and is clearly talking to her and just bigging her up and being there for her. And it's something I've talked about so much, and I just think it's so beautiful. The relationship that those two have forged. I think that Jackie Young was meant to find A'ja Wilson in her career. And the Aces social team did a great job of posting just a beautiful photo of that moment where Jackie has her hands on her head and she just can't believe she missed that layup. And Asia's got her arm around Jackie and is talking to her and instilling that confidence in her that she has since Jackie was a rookie. It's such a special relationship. And while the Liberty were celebrating, I was rushing to do my road team Owen duties and going into that post-game press conference to talk to Becky Hammon and to talk to Jackie Young about that moment and what makes A'ja so special on a night when the MVP wasn't playing. And yet A'ja is still there, and A'ja still has such a massive impact in everything this team does and the way in which players feel and find their confidence and find their groove and are just comfortable. And it just goes to speak to Asia's greatness when it comes to the moments when she's not going off for 53 points. So here is Becky first and then Jackie talking about that moment and what A'ja means to them on a night like June 30th, the Commissioner's Cup.
Hi, Becky. Jack obviously played exceptionally well, but seemed to be wearing that miss at the end. And as they walked off, A'ja had her arm around her. Yeah. What do you appreciate about Asia's presence on a night like tonight when she's not suited up?
I mean, she's just she's such a great teammate and a support system for the group. We've all been there on shots that we wish we could get back or shots that we wish would have went down. I thought she played phenomenal. So I'll give her a squeeze back there. That shot is not what won or lost the game, but she's a perfectionist. She demands a lot out of herself. I need her to give herself a little bit more grace in some scenarios. The ball will be back in her hands late game.
Hi, Jackie. Walking off the court, Asia had her arm around you. What does she mean to you in moments like that?
Yeah, I mean, she's been by my side throughout my whole career. Obviously, we've played together my entire career and have had a lot of big moments together, highs and lows, and she's always been by my side. And so, she was just, just being there for me, being the big sister that she is, that she doesn't really want to be for me, stuck with me. But yeah, I mean, she was just trying to, just instill that confidence in me and just tell me, to just keep going, can't get stuck on that one layup that I smoked at the end. But to just, keep my head up.
So while Owen was heading down to Becky's presser and asking some of these really great questions that got us the context. And also, wait, before we get there, I want to say that we know that I primarily cover the Liberty beat and that Owen rocks so heavy with the aces, and like that might be why like it seems like this is kind of a conversation that's going in these two distinct directions. But much like these two teams, I think the two of us also just love both of these rosters and coaches and teams so much that like it really is something that regardless of results, like both of us were just going to be thrilled at being able to be witnesses to this game. So before we talk about the Lib celebration, I just want to say like it is such a privilege that we both get to cover with and rock with these teams so heavy. And,
100%.
And yeah, I was going to say, I didn't know if you were pointing at your Benai Laney jersey or if you had something to say.
No, 100%. I wanted to reiterate that. Like, I mean, it is to be in market in New York, and the Liberty have been so good to us. And yeah, it is a pinch me moment so often. Again, not to be annoying and say that again, but I think it is important to acknowledge the privilege of this position and to say that talking to JJ and Stewie and Sabrina and Benijah and just on down the roster every day, like I get such a kick out of that. And yeah, so the jokes are fun. Shout out to the AP's Doug Feinberg, since we're doing shout outs, who loves the road Team Owen bit, but it's like I'm home Team Owen too. And as you said, same for you. Like we're here for the whole league, and maybe to a fault. Maybe it's like people are rolling their eyes at the positivity, but this is who we are. It's genuine.
I mean, it's the lane that we've carved, is that there absolutely is a need for some of the more critical journalism, because this is 100%. A major sport and these players deserve to be treated as like the professional athletes that they are. But there's also really a lack of positivity, we think, in this space, and there are so many players to be celebrated, and that's not just the players at the top of the box score, that's everyone down to the last person on the bench. But in this matchup, it's just like we are just sitting there as fans, basically, that have to be reminded every now and then to lock in. Yeah. Because it really is every possession. We're like, whoa, what a cross there. And then on the other end, you're leaking out the other way and making that pass. And we're getting to be like, all right, you're talking about the decel layup from Jackie. How about a couple of those Marine, like double pump scoop layups? Like there's just so much great basketball happening that it's almost like we forget that we need to lock back in and be like, oh shit, we have to ask them questions about this later. I was just like totally engrossed by the moment, but I never want to lose that. I never want to lose that fandom, because that at its heart is why we love this game so much, and these athletes and the proximity to greatness, that we can just be, sitting in the bleachers and watching this so close and then having the interactions. It's such a highlight of our professional careers that, like, I think it was Maddie had said this on our recent pod, or maybe at the bar recently. Maddie said recently that there are a lot of people that never get to cover championships in the media space. Yeah. And there are a lot of people that came before us and burned out of coverage of this league because it wasn't where it is today. And we do not lose sight of the fact that like we have been extremely blessed. And I often joke that my first credentialed year was that bubble season where the Liberty went 2-20 in that bubble. So it really is started from the bottom. Now we're here. But at the same time, though, it's just like, I love telling those stories too, because that was a team full of a half a dozen rookies that were going out there and learning and finding it on the fly with just like stories to tell. So while we're able to, in this scenario, highlight just the plethora of superstars, that's not at the expense of all of the players that we love to talk to. And we just love this so much. And now it was my turn to be sappy.
I love it. No, it's so true. And I think that's the connective tissue, right? Like you started that by bringing up Marine. And one of the best moments of the game, which we didn't get to experience live, we got to experience that 3-pointer live, but going back and seeing the broadcast, they're interviewing Asia on the broadcast as it's happening. And she has this hilarious classic Asia reaction to it. And that's the connective tissue. We get lost in the stilted, at times, relationship between media and players and coaches and everyone. And 100%, I will never diminish the role in which critical calling out bullshit coverage is so needed and necessary. That is never, these aren't mutually exclusive camps. That at once is incredibly important and necessary.
Yeah. And we're also, sorry to cut you off, but we're also like not here to do PR for the league. We're here to just big up the players that we rock with so heavy mostly.
Right. That's what this podcast was born from, was we want to talk to players and get their stories and just appreciate why we love this league. And the people in it love that too. We have to also kind of bring it full circle to what you were saying with the Liberty bubble season, them being 2-20. And my first year covering the league was 2020. And I'm covering the Sky, who were really finding it and a year from winning a title then. But I was also covering the Indiana Fever in 2020, and they were in the pits and hadn't made the playoffs for years and kept being in the lottery. And that was delightful. And one of the players I covered on that team, little tease, I'm not going to say it, but you might be able to figure it out if you're a real WNBA head. A player on that team now is playing for a team that is at the bottom of the standings, but has also played for some of the best teams in the WNBA. And she is one of our absolute favorites. And it just goes to show, and she will be our next guest on this podcast coming up. We just finished talking with her, and it was so delightful, as it always is, that some of the best teams to talk about and watch and have fun engaging with in this league are the teams at the bottom of the standings. We look right now, and the Seattle Storm are at the very bottom of the standings, and they're playing the Mercury tonight, who also have a losing record on the day we're recording this. And I'm psyched for it. I can't wait, because there's so many intriguing storylines on Seattle. There's so many intriguing storylines on Connecticut. All these teams, it's like, it just goes to show the breadth of talent in this league and how fun it is. And the coaches appreciate that. The players appreciate that. Media, fans, like, that's the connective tissue. So yeah, we've gone completely off script here being sappy, but like, I do think it's needed. And I do think it's partially built up from all of the vile stuff that's happening, all of the racism, all of the misogyny, all of the stuff that must be rebuked and must be fought against in this league, when that is not what the players of this league are about, and that is not what this league is about. It's about the basketball, and it's about the greatness on the court, off the court, etc.
One thing I got to say to that is, what a professional tease that was. In terms
I was pretty good, right?
Yeah, man. You've been doing this for a while, like 86 episodes or something like that. Because
something roughly like that.
Come back next week, because we got another good one already lined up for you. But back to the celebration. Let's get back to this Liberty celebration, because while Owen was running down to talk to Becky, I was able to snake my way to right in front of the court, and the second loudest sound of the night might have been the Sabrina 3 to dagger. The loudest was Kathy Engelbert was handed a microphone, and the boos that rang out at Barclays, these fans, and there's something, and these fans are so locked in. Like sometimes there's like this is just what happens in sports leagues where commissioners are going to get the boo, and that's just, part of the script. No, these fans meant it. This was coming from a place of deep-seated resentment. And to the point where some of the reactions of the younger players are
so good.
Pauline Astier in the background is very confused when there's this boo ringing out. You could see her looking around. You could see Beck Allen like trying to keep a straight face. Beck Gardner is smirking. I think she had to put a hand up. And it's just it's incredibly funny in the context of them. It almost feels like there's a sign being held up to the crowd that's like, clap now, boo now. It almost is like a laugh track because Kathy has the mic for a couple of seconds just to first hand over the trophy. And then again, when it's time to introduce Stewie. But before that, in that minute between, I forget who it was that was doing the on-court presentation, but they start talking about Sabrina, and Barclays starts a Sabrina chant. And I don't know that we've really heard one of those before, but the appreciation, something we love about these fans in New York, and I'm sure that this is happening all over the league because this is this is a sport where the fans are really, really smart and also really, really passionate, because for so long we've talked about on this pod, the players had to be champions of the W. They had to be on social media in ways that their NBA counterparts did not have to be, because they were going to be getting their $10 million whether or not they were engaging and promoting their sport. The same thing is kind of true of W fans, because on the NBA side, there's an oversaturation of just everyone's got an opinion. This is predated all these fans, and that the NBA is going to be there no matter what happens. So many of these W fans that go back to the late 90s have been champions for all of these players, and it's not just the ones on their teams. And I think that's the beauty of it, is they've been rocking for so long and so hard in big upping the entire league, because they're like, if there's not a WNBA, there's not a New York Liberty. There won't be these franchises that exist and persist. And I think that's why there's such a strong emotional response in moments like this, that they can go from a Sabrina chant to a boo to then MVP chants for Breanna Stewart, as she had 25 and 11 with 2 steals and 2 blocks, earns the Commissioner's Cup MVP trophy. But getting to hear that noise and run back for the pressers after that was very cool to experience from that close vantage. And then afterwards, after we finish all the pressers, there's some more scrums on the practice court, and we're just going to give you a little bit of color there because we don't always get access to even as much as we did in this case. And seeing these players in celebration is just always such a treat and such a pleasure, because it's this exhaling and this moment of joy after they're still all in uniform and or wearing whatever the Commissioner's Cup championship shirts and hats that they're given in the moment, but they have not been apart from each other in the moment, from the final whistle until, a couple hours later when they are drenched in champagne and sticky. So we get to see them kind of in that in between. And there's some scrums there. So we spoke to JJ for a little bit, spoke to Pauline for a little bit. I know Leo was available too. So there were more players for us to talk to, but mostly in just seeing them kind of cut loose. And also, because they've all just played a 40-minute basketball game, they're super dehydrated. So that champagne is hitting. That by the time they hit the podium, Stewie is slurring a little bit.
Sabrina's first thing that Sabrina said as she walked into the podium, she turned to one of the PR people and she's like, "Can we get some water?" she's already like thinking about hydrating, which is classic Sabrina and a testament to what it must be like when you see those classic A'ja Wilson after winning the finals press conferences. You got to understand that not just are they hitting the champagne, but they haven't eaten or they haven't eaten in hours. They've just played a crazy grueling game. They're dehydrated. It all coalesces into a unique vibe.
Well, I was going to say that was the first thing that you heard. The first thing I heard was Jackie Powell from the Next calls out the stench that wafts in of that stale, like sweet, like overwhelming, pungent champagne odor. And said something like, "Wow, that's strong." And
it's unmistakable.
Breanna Stewart, like without missing a beat, is just like, "That's champagne. That's the smell of victory." And it's going up there. They've got the goggles on, the ski goggles on too, and it's just like Stewie. Although we did see her struggle to open a giant bottle of champagne later, but that smell of champagne has to be, a very familiar odor to Stewie at this point in her career.
Absolutely.
What were some of your, in terms of just being journalists and painting the picture, some of your favorite moments from just the celebration and the little after party we caught a glimpse of after that game?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep. Unfortunately, I'm gonna keep some of those to ourselves, just
to maintain our credentials,
interest of our jobs and whatnot. But just echoing what you said, which is that those celebrations, and especially like a mid-season one, is cool because usually when we see these, it's after a team has won the title, and I love it because it does bring out the other side of players that is the human side that is not it's a function of what they just did in basketball, but it's now not about the basketball. It's like I didn't see this in the moment, but then I'm seeing clips on social of Leo and Raquel dancing to Bad Bunny. Like those are really fun moments where it's just they're just living. They're just having fun after this massive accomplishment, and by the next morning they're going to be locked back in on the Minnesota Lynx scout, and they're going to be back in the gym working at it again. But for that night, you're Commissioner's Cup champions, and you just get to let loose. And this is a job that you don't get to let loose very often. This is a job, a professional basketball player's job, or a coach or a general manager or whatever your position may be, or everyone else that fills out these team contexts. There's so many amazing people in the Liberty organization that we interact with every day that aren't under the spotlight, that really are essential to making everything run. And to see people in those jobs which require a really impressive level of discipline and commitment day after day after day, just be able to have some fun and chop it up with us and be like, hey, this is cool. And we're not gonna get caught up in the athlete grind set of, the push pull, the reckoning with, should we even celebrate this? Does it even matter? It's like, fuck that, man. Celebrate it. And I think we're going to throw to some audio here that we got 2 days after on Thursday morning at practice, the day before the Liberty played the Lynx. When this drops, past tense, hasn't happened as of yet, right as we're recording right now. But we got some cool stuff from Chris DeMarco, the Liberty head coach, and from Breanna Stewart about appreciating this win and saying, you know what, fuck it. We're celebrating this. We want to be in the moment. That doesn't have to be a mutually exclusive thing where if we celebrate the Commissioner's Cup, that means we're not motivated, not locked in to win the title. It's like, no, actually, dare I say, that's being present in the moment, which is what athletes talk about all the time, of one day at a time. Just this practice is the Super Bowl today, So in some ways, I think that's required, because if you're just buttoned up and grind set discipline mode 24/7 for the entire year, you probably aren't going to play your best when it matters. You have to have the moments where you're with your family, where you're with your loved ones, where you're celebrating this big accomplishment and having that exhale. It doesn't mean you're getting complacent. It's just deserved. And so we got to see a lot of that in the little in between and just kind of gleeful moments, which was super fun.
What's the mentality for deciding as a team to celebrate all your wins along the way? Because there are some teams that are like, we won't celebrate until it's the final game or the last one's happening.
Oh, you talking about versus the cup?
Versus celebrating the cup or celebrating first round of the playoffs or whatever along the way.
I think that there's something to staying in the moment and appreciating the listen, you appreciate the successes and kind of the failures along the way. And, like, these are big things, no matter what they're big things, and you don't want to always just like let them pass you by. You want to enjoy it. So I think for us, that's something that we're trying to do even more. Is like, yeah, we have big goals, and yeah, a lot of us have won a lot of big games and stuff like that, but we want to appreciate them right now, like in this moment.
Who got after it the most the other night?
Honestly, the coaches.
I mean, I enjoyed it for sure. The crowd was incredible. It was a really good moment, and I brought it up pregame, postgame. Not being able to play the last one in this building was a really cool experience, and it's obviously not our ultimate goal, but it's not easy to win these trophies, and we didn't do it at full health, right? We had to win these games with players out, players come back to the lineup, and so it was a real team effort. And then for us, at times when we've struggled with leads, to lose the lead and then finish the game the correct way, I think it was an important step for our team.
I really, really enjoyed just to hear from Chris, and also specifically from Breanna Stewart, because again, this is someone who's done a lot of winning, and there across sports are these narratives of, you don't celebrate until you are the last team standing and the one team holding the trophy. And again, to invoke the Knicks, like that's something that we saw from the Knicks. They didn't put a cup up, and Jalen Brunson, when he was asked after every single game, was like, no, this is not our goal. This is, and respect to them, because I don't think that there's necessarily a wrong way to go about this either. Myself personally, I remember back in grad school, I had a professor that always told us to create small goals, because your brain can't distinguish between completing a large goal and completing a small one. So you're going to get the same dopamine rush in your head when you take out the garbage or when you finish a chapter as you do when you clean out your entire apartment or when you complete an entire novel. So those big overarching things, your brain can't necessarily tell the difference. And I think that, like, that's not to say that, winning a Commissioner's Cup championship is going to have you waking up for the next 3 months thinking that you achieved your largest goal. But this is an important checkpoint along the way. And I wanted to hear from someone who's done a lot of winning. And that was why specifically I asked that question to Breanna Stewart and got such a great answer, I think, out of it, because all these moments matter. And I think it's a good life, it's good life advice that extends beyond the basketball court into all of our jobs. Like you complete a project and you get a pat on the back from your boss, you should be celebrating that, right? You have an anniversary or a birthday, like all of these things that happen to us in life are worth the celebrations. And it's another one of those moments that these athletes, they're just like us. They're just winning. They're winning and they're completing their tasks. And that doesn't mean that this matters more than another task down the line. But I was always someone that was like, you win every round of the playoffs, you should be celebrating that, because you don't know when you get back there. So all of those should be special. And you don't want to not have celebrated something in the past and look back at it and say, I have no core memory from this because I wouldn't let myself enjoy it and engage in it. And this is what life's all about. Like, enjoy the everyday and the successes that you find at every step of the way.
100%. It's something I reckon with a lot and am endlessly fascinated in talking to elite athletes about, is the balance of, and maybe it's a crutch of a question that I ask too much, but are you able to step outside of the day-to-day grind and the microscopic to appreciate the gratitude of this moment? And you get varying answers to that, and in varying situations that really illuminate the psyche of these elite athletes and how they are people just like us. And some of them have a tougher time doing that and appreciating that, and that's so understandable. And others, like our guest who I teased, who's the best, who will be episode 87 of Pull Up with Myles and Owen, participate in that and have a way of reflecting and thinking about these massive achievements and what they mean and how it makes them feel and their impact. So I thought it was so cool to hear that. a few quick shout outs too, as we kind of wrap up here. Number one, could it be any more of a Stewie thing that, like, we've talked about Stewie a lot in this episode, but like when we talked about the basketball, we talked about Jack and we talked about Sabrina. Breanna Stewart won MVP of the game, and we didn't really talk about how great she was in the game because that's just what Stewie does. It's like such a theme, it seems like, in the New York stage of her career. It wasn't the case at UConn and in Seattle, but it seems like in the New York stage, for whatever reason, that probably necessitates its own podcast. Breanna Stewart continues to just be excellent, all-time Hall of Fame level player. And it's just like, ho-hum. Like, yes, Stewie was the best defender on the floor and scored 20 points and had 12 rebounds. Or those weren't the numbers from the Commissioner's Cup, but probably like
25
somewhat
and 11.
close.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. 25 and 11. You know, it's like the same vibe. And it's like, instead we're like talking about her espousing or whatever the word is for reflecting on the bigger picture and stuff like that. I also want to shout out Jonquel Jones, who when I think it was you asked Chris DeMarco about this at practice on 2 days after the game, just you could tell how much Chris loves JJ. He's just like, JJ is the best, man. Like, her shot
through. Yeah, I had to speed through my question because I'm like, he's got this big grin on his face that he's just excited to talk about JJ. And that's what you want from a coach, and that's what JJ is going to bring out of you.
Yeah, 100%. So JJ had a great game and deserves her credit too, because I think she's another one in the realm of what I said about Chelsea Gray, where we could talk about all these names and all this greatness in this matchup, and sometimes we forget Jonquel. And also another little behind the scenes of Jonquel, friend of the pod, episode 50, if you haven't listened. Jonquel is not only is she an actual MVP of the WNBA, and a finals MVP of the WNBA. She is also media MVP. The way in which she approaches a scrum after a game, win or loss, she goes around. No one else does this that I've ever seen. Everyone will be crowded around her in a semicircle, and she will go one by one and allow everyone to ask a question. And in the case of this Commissioner's Cup game, she was giving everyone multiple questions.
Yeah, which is out of character, super out of character.
And I
apologizes too.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, JJ. I've got two, and she's like, "No, you're good." Until about question 18, and she was like, "All right, y'all need to wrap this up because my friends are partying without me right now."
Exactly. So shout out to JJ for being the best as well. And I think that just about does it on this Commish Cup wrap up. I know it's next week as this is dropping, so apologies for maybe the lack of newsiness, but we decided that it was worthwhile because of the bigger picture stuff. Like, this is a forum that we appreciate. Usually we're talking to someone else, and that is the core of this podcast, and I love that the most. But it's fun to get a little, I don't know if meta's the right word with it. I guess meta's the wrong word, but to reflect and to talk about how fun this shit is. So yeah, cheers to you.
I mean, yeah, this is time to wrap because Owen's run out of words at this point. He's scrambling at this point. But
that doesn't usually happen.
The one extra shout out I wanted to give was to Kevin Kdot Lewis, who is the reason why you're listening to this, and
the GOAT.
He joined us, as you all know, as a producer a couple months back, and has really just upped the game for us in terms of our capabilities. We couldn't have done something like this a year ago. No. And the just kind of champions, all right, what do you guys need? I got you, here for you. And our limits are basically our own creativity, because we know that whatever we're doing, Kdot's got our back. And so shout out to him for just continuing to support us and to put out this great content. And for something like this with so many moving pieces, the patience and 4th of July weekend working through this. So Kdot, shout out to you. And thank you guys, as always, for listening. As Owen has continued to tease, we're going to be back, and we've got a couple of really fun. We've got player interviews coming up for you. We've been on. It's tough in season because the W schedule is relentless, and it's just nonstop and smothering. And the travel and everything. So it's hard to do, and we wouldn't be able to without obviously the PR teams that are helping to coordinate. But these players, every time you hear from a player on our podcast in season, it's because they are opting in. This is outside of their media responsibilities, and they don't want to be sitting down and talking for 30 minutes. So we never take it for granted when someone is, and it's a testament to the relationships that we have been able to build. But we're really excited about these that are coming up, that are coming your way. So thank you, and just continue to pull up with us, and we'll be back soon before you know it. Pull Up with Myles and Owen is hosted by Myles Ehrlich and Owen Pence. This episode was written and produced by Myles Ehrlich, Owen Pence, Molly Socha, and Kevin Kdot Lewis. Molly Socha is our executive producer.